So it's gonna take them out of the because you need to set up. They'll get ready. So I'll follow up with that. So you guys can but if you want to like if you want to split it up however you want, you're more than welcome to do it. I just want to okay, you got it.
This special board meeting to order. The date is July 23rd, 2024. The time is 6:04. Adrian, can you pull the board?
Item 1B, roll call. Ms. Barnes.
Present.
Ms. Borrego. She did call ahead to mention she wasn't going to be able to make it to today's meeting. Ms. Mendoza.
Here.
Mr. Rodriguez.
Present.
Mr. Cimental.
Here.
Mrs. Strauss.
Present.
Ms. Zuniga.
Here.
Item number 2, open forum. Any person wishing to address the board during the period reserved for public comment at a board meeting must sign up to be heard in accordance with district policy BEP local. Each participant will be limited to 3 minutes to make comments to the board. The board is not permitted to discuss or act on any issues that are not posted on the agenda for tonight's meeting. For further information on these policies, you must contact the superintendent's administrative assistant. And Mr. President, we do not have any community members signed up for tonight.
Okay.
That leads us to item number 3, Board of Trustees business. 3A, Discussion and possible action to renew the District of Innovation Plan 2024-2025. Presenter, Julie Menendez.
Good evening, everyone. Hi. Okay, so I'm here to renew the DOI, the District of Innovation. It expired, we had it for 5 years, and it expired May 30, at the end of this school year. So throughout this school year, we have met to discuss items that we would like to keep or remove. So in the packet you received, it included the original DOI. And in the original District of Innovation, there was 4 items on it. It was I don't know if everybody has it in front of them, but okay. So the original plan had to shorten the calendar, or to change the calendar to start earlier in August so that we can end sooner. The original plan also had the teacher appraisals where we were allowed to give teachers waivers. And then the original plan also had the student discipline exemptions where we were going to assign a designated person at the high school to deal with discipline, and this particular item was never used. So this is one of the items that we're going to remove completely from the DOI. And now we're going to, because we have the MTSS system in place where it's that multi-tier system for behavior and it includes the whole child. So we decided that we were going to eliminate this one.
Student discipline?
So in the original plan, they decided that at that moment that they needed like a person designated for discipline instead of dividing it up amongst the assistant principals. But it was never used, this particular item. So for the renewal, it's been removed. So do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
No? Yes?
I know that it's going to be, this is share. I know that it's going to be removed. Once that we remove student discipline, it's going to go to
Oh, no, not just student discipline in general, that exemption. So when we do a District of Innovation, we ask for exemptions.
Okay.
So the original exemption was to ask for a coordinator for behavior at the high school. But we decided not to use that. So the principal then decided that all administrators would be in charge of discipline instead of assigning one coordinator. So that was an exemption that we originally asked for, but not that we would not deal with student discipline. It was just a different way of having the coordinator. But because we didn't use it, we didn't use the exemption. So all administrators are in charge of discipline at the secondary level. And now we have another system in place that hopefully alleviates that. And then the other item that we had originally was hard to fill positions, where we asked if we can locally give certifications like for CTE so that we can have teachers, and that's one item that will continue. And then last year we added an addendum to it when we added the Montessori teachers. When we added that, we said we wanted also to allow the Montessori teachers to get a teacher certificate as long as they follow the criteria.
I do have, Mr. Chair, I do have a question in regards this. The CISD, you mentioned that we have flexibility to hire external or internal applicants that do not have to have traditional state certification. Obviously, this one applies for Montessori, right? As long as they have.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. So there's certain criteria that we're still requiring them to have a bachelor's degree, and we're still required to, the teachers that we're hiring have the special training in Montessori, but they don't have the Texas certification that the state of Texas requires. So now what this says is that they're going to try and get it, meanwhile we're able to hire them as a teacher of record.
I do have more questions, but I don't know. You already finished. I'm going to wait until you finish your presentation.
Okay. So if you look at page 16, of the packet, you will see how it is described of the items that will be renewed. For example, first day of instruction, it'll be renewed and remain the same. That means that we have the flexibility to start before the fourth Monday of August. And the teacher's appraisals is going to be removed. That's the one I said about the waiver. We no longer have to ask the state for the waiver. The state allows us to give teacher waivers so as long as we have a criteria to give them waivers. And so our district has a system to give teachers waivers of a formal observation. And then it goes to explain it. Student discipline, like I said, was removed. And the reason it says student discipline because that's the way it reads in the Texas Education Code, not because we're removing discipline in general. And then teacher certification, page 19, again, that's gonna be renewed with the amendment. And we do have 2 new items, and the 2 new items would be on page 21, the minimum attendance of class credit for final grade. So this is new. We had 2 assistant principals at the high school bring this to our attention and to the committee. Basically, the state of Texas says that if you do not sit in your seat 90% of the time, even though you have a passing grade, you won't get credit. So we have found that we have a lot of students that are not meeting the 90%. And we are not, maybe this is not the, we did not, and we're not doing a good job of taking them to court for not coming to school, right? We haven't had a good system of truancy in place. But with these, we're asking for the exemption so that if a student does not meet the 90%, but is mastering the class at an 80% or above, then we can give them credit. So as long as their absences are excused, meaning if they're excused for medical reasons, doctor's appointment, death, if it exceeds that. Now, if they don't meet the 90% and they have an 80, but they're skipping school and they're unexcused, they will go through the truancy process. They will go through the truancy process. So it's not exactly a freebie. We're just trying. So we pulled data, right? How many kids? So I believe last fall, there was like 800 students or 800 instances, right? That potentially students would lose credit for not meeting the 90%. So when we asked IT to remove those that had at least an 80% and excused absences, it lessened it like by 250, right? So that's less paperwork for administrators and less things, but and giving them also time to go through the truancy process, to go through court. They felt that they were involved in all this paperwork trying to just keep up with attendance and loss of credit. And unfortunately, sometimes we did have a couple of parents in the committee, and one of the parents, her daughter goes to therapy. She has anxiety, mental health. So she said, I have to go to court, or I have to go through these committees when I have to pull my daughter once a week for therapy or what have you, and I have an excuse. So those are extreme circumstances, but those are the things we're trying to avoid, of having the student not lose credit for that, but still have, if they're mastering the class with an 80 or above, then they can still get credit. And then the last thing, we are adding another one, mandatory removal for DAP for possessing controlled substances. So what we have found is that a DAP is really, really cool with students who are getting caught for smoking like e-cigarettes or just cigarettes with nicotine. And so we felt as a committee that if we took care of that discipline of with students, with nicotine, then we could do it in-house, like in-school suspension at the campus, instead of sending them to DAP for a 45-day term. So they're missing instruction and they're missing, and I'm not saying it's okay, but it's another way of dealing with it, and we can take care of it on campus. That way it opens more space at DAP for the students that get caught with narcotics or fighting or bringing weapons and things like that. And I guess this school year was a very good example of how we had lots of kids in DAP for fighting, right? And some of those kids were on hold and housed at the campus because we just didn't have the space for them. And because there was an excessive amount of students at the AP that were been placed there for a simple infraction of getting caught with it. So we went through the process of deliberating with the committee. We met many times, at least once a month. We presented this to DAC, and it has been placed on the website as a plan, proposed plan for over 30 days. It's been under almost 60. It should have just been 30, but since I could not put this on the agenda in June and missed the date, that's why I'm coming to you now in July. And so this new plan would be for the next 5 years, and it would take effect at the beginning of the new school year.
Any other questions?
Do you want to go ahead and then I have some other questions?
So I believe I only have 2 questions. The first one is over the student discipline portion. Was someone hired in particular to fill that specific position when we originally?
No, it was never used. We never. At the time, I think it was brought up to the committee, and that was a suggestion, but they never really assigned you're in charge of all of this.
Okay.
And I think because given the size of our high school, it's just too much for one person. At the time that this was brought up, it was a good idea, but it was not. There was not just one person in charge of it.
And I guess to follow up on that, is there a plan in place? Because yes, we do have a lot of kids and it would be a lot for one specific person to follow, but I do feel it's also important for our administrators to know our kids and know what's happening and see kind of those repetitions of things that are going on. So do we have a plan in place for, specific alphabets breakdown, you're gonna go and see this person so that they do build that rapport with them?
I believe they do, and Ms. Marufo's here, and she can help me answer that.
Please, thank you.
Yes, we do. Each one of our APs have an alpha breakdown. It's posted, everyone sees it. And then the good news is, we really want to push it into ESS, so it's not always by alpha, right? It's about taking the time, who does the student relate with well. Our goal is to be preventive and to support before it gets to that referral process.
Perfect.
Yes.
Yeah, I wanted to make sure something was in place, because I feel like if that rapport is really there, we'll see less of it to begin with. But if they're just kind of going through a system of seeing a random person every single time, it may not have that consistency. So thank you for that, I appreciate it. My second question has to do with, you mentioned for minimum attendance. So I have some concerns with going less than 90 based on grades. And I guess my rationale for that is grades are all left up to whatever happens to get plugged into the system. If they know, my administrator doesn't want to deal with the paperwork of this child being absent and going through truancy, so as long as they're passing, as long as they have that 80, I just need to make sure to maintain that grade. Is there going to be any type of accountability to make sure that those students are earning the grades that they're receiving for that 80%?
Right.
Or 75, I'm sorry.
Yeah. No. Yes, and I just want to say that even if I'm the student with an 80 and I haven't met the 90%, my absences have to be excused.
Okay.
So not every absence would qualify.
Perfect.
Right.
Okay.
So even let's say I went to Disneyland for a week and there's no, so that wouldn't count. That would be considered an excused absence. And so that's why there's also a principal plan. And I'm sorry, you were going to say something. Okay.
And then we also monitor the input of each break. We need a minimum of 2 breaks per week. Watch the break, but students with excessive absences, the accountability of that sometimes is getting it inputted. What if I'm at sports? What if I was away from a school activity? Sometimes there is a process that we need to get back in. So this allows us that time and the opportunity to make sure we're watching students with excused absences and not penalizing them with additional tutoring. Because if they are that person with extracurriculars, we want to make sure that we support the whole student.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions?
I do.
Go ahead, Ms. Strong.
Thank you. going to the district goals, number 1, it says student safety and security, academic growth, college and career military readiness. How are we doing in that? Are we promoting that?
Yes, but that is just a goal, it's not part of an exemption. So the DOI is asking for exemptions to like the Texas Education Code. So I have to, in the document that I submit to the state, I have to I have to state what our goals are. So usually some of these items are addressed through our district improvement plan or our campus improvement plan, but for this document, it's only for exemption.
But since we are here, might as well, the principal would like to answer my question. Are we promoting career military readiness?
Yes, ma'am.
How are we doing?
We have seen an increase in that CCMR percent. We are promoting military readiness with our students, by having that discussion, of course, with our seniors prior to graduating, working with our recruiters on who's enlisted with them. We've also saw huge scholarships this year into our, Navy. Yes, ma'am. So we are, 100% behind promoting military support for our students.
So make sure we stay on the district of innovation. That's not out there.
One of the innovations says for improvement of student outcomes focusing on social and emotional learning. Is that?
We're talking about exemptions, not part of accountability.
Oh, okay. Well, it's here. So it's part of the innovation or not?
No.
The social and emotional is not part of the innovation?
No,
That's the one that we're asking.
Right, in this case, it's only about what do we wanna exempt ourselves from, or what do we wanna,
But you have to put all this information.
yes, so they're asking, does the district have goals in place, does the district have, so I follow a template and I input what they're asking.
Not even parental engagement, that parent university is not.
All that is addressed in our district
Oh.
improvement plan.
Okay.
So there is another document that addresses all of that.
Okay, well, going in that one, just to know, you said it's a plan for 5 years?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and who is in the committee?
So if you look at the page, page 4, there was representation from every campus, and we had local business owners, executive directors, and I had parents also, teachers, counselors. It's on page 4 and 5 there.
Okay.
And then the page before, you could see like every time we met, we talked about it.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Any other questions? No, we want to make a motion to approve.
I would like to move, to renew the District, of Innovation Plan for 2024 through 2025.
Second.
Is there any other discussion? If not, full board.
Ms. Barnes?
Yes.
Ms. Mendoza?
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez?
Yes.
Mr. Cemental?
Yes.
Mrs. Scrub?
Yes.
Ms. Zuniga?
Yes.
All in favor, motion passes. Item 3E, discussion and possible action to add bond job accounting coordinator using bond interest funds. Presenter, Ms. Martha Carrasco.
Good evening, Board President, Dr. Galaviz, and trustees. Before you, on the agenda, we are requesting for a bond project staffing to begin our school year for 24-25, and this would be a cost accounting coordinator. And of course, the funding is available through the bond interest. That position will be supported in that manner. It is a new position to the district, so we are requiring board approval for this position.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
Who would they be under?
They would be working for our accounting department and the finance. I know that I've had questions about this position in regards to, they're going to be working with Presidio. Presidio has their own accountant, but in this case, this is going to be on the side of the district because they will be having, I don't think Presidio has access to our system, to our accounting system, so we need somebody on our side to be able to manage the reconciliations and the approvals in the system that Canopio has.
And why would they not have access to us?
They're not our employees, they're contractors, so they're not our physical employees. So this one would be our employee.
And my next question was oh, I'm sorry. Sorry. So we're hiring in essence another accountant.
Yes, it will be an accountant that's just dedicated to the bond projects.
Okay, and our staff can't handle that.
No, sir.
Why not?
We had a cut of an account, actually 2 cuts for accountants, and our staff is just managing the district day-to-day operations right now. We have to spread all those duties among the staff that remains.
Okay, and then they said that their pay, or to pay for this is coming out of the bond's interest?
Interest,
The
correct.
money we're making on the interest for the bond?
Correct, sir. Yes, sir.
And for the CEO, they can't do this job, or Steve, can you give them access? Or that's bad,
I think it removes the check and balance that they want in place.
Yeah, it's our opinion that it does remove the check and balance from,
I understand.
if we have the ability to create POs and then receive the invoices and then do the reconciliation, there's no check and balance on the owner's side. And it was our recommendation that they have someone that we have a project controls person who's our accountant. And it's usual practice or normal practice during bonds that you have somebody on the owner's side who's taking care of their enterprise system like Frontline and reconciling with our monthly reports that we provide.
Okay, well, my understanding was that you guys were gonna do reports.
Yes, everything.
Every month, and show us
Yes.
everything, so we know, right?
Right.
What's going on, whether they had access or not. They have to tell us.
Right.
That's part of their contract.
Yes.
So why do we have to?
So part of the bond construction, we're also responsible for year-end audits. We also have to maintain our construction, our work in progress. There is a lot of review as far as accounts payable, pay applications. There's a lot more work on our side before we approve payments that will have to happen. And that comes from the district side. And we just don't have the capacity currently with the current staff that we have.
My only problem was that when we started this, we said that we weren't gonna add anybody and we didn't need to spend more money, that everything was gonna be taken care of. But I guess not. We probably need this person, right?
Yes, sir.
Alright. Mr. Chair?
No, I don't have any other
Do you
questions.
finish?
I don't have any questions. I'm done.
Exactly. I do remember that we decided, or it was decided that we're gonna pay you $12 million, and you said you're gonna be 100% transparent. I wanna be 100% transparent with the community, because whatever was said before, that's what we need to go abide by. I think this position gotta be absorbed by you. If it's gonna be working for the bond, they gotta be working for your department, in the bond department, not in financials. I don't know how many persons we have in financials. I guess we have 5?
We have 3 accountants.
3 accountants. But this one is for the bond. That's what the item says. Add bond job accounting. So $12 million is a very good money. So this is gonna be, I don't know, we have already the job description. This is gonna be a new position, and how much it's gonna be. I do remember that we cut personnel because of the running low that we were here. Now we're gonna rehire one back again. So I don't think this is possible, because if we do that, then what happened with the rest of the departments? They're gonna say, you know what, I want another person too. So I something that thing for $12 million is very well worth it, that you can hire one.
And I understand your point of view. I do. We do have David Martinez. He's our project controls. We don't have access to your enterprise system, though. And it's good that we don't, because you always want a check and balance, right, for auditing purposes. It's my understanding right now that you don't have an internal auditor. It's something that you could add to your external audit function, but it's also a very good practice for you to have that check and balance, because when we support you with all the reports and with all the financial transparency that we do. We need someone on the district side to be reconciling that with the frontline system, which is your enterprise software. We don't have access to the software.
Now, this position is gonna be temporary?
Through the bond, yes.
For how long?
4 years is the bond.
So it's not temporary then? 4 years is not temporary. So I think it's 4 years or 4 years, so it's not temporary. So I don't know who's requesting this, maybe you, maybe it's Ms. Cooley, that temporary is not 4 years, ma'am. And also I would like to know what is gonna be the pay for this position, and if we already create a job description for this new position.
I have a question
Yes.
before on that. Who's requesting it? Is it Presidio that's requesting this, or is it our staff that's requesting
That
it?
was my question too.
It's my understanding it's the district requesting it. We recommended it from our side.
But you recommended it, so now we're requesting.
Yes.
So
Was
it's-
there
it was their recommendation. I just want to remind the board, back in your 2011 bond, when the board district had to do it themselves, and I came in 2013, and there's $9 million in the hole. Because there was no system or process for checks and balances. I don't know who was recommending, who was checking, the board was approving. So again, this is a way to assure you that there are checks and balances. The Presidio is saying, this is what we're saying it is. We need someone on our side to verify. And with only 3 accountants, like school going in, we're going to be focusing on our kids. So when we meet weekly with Presidio, they recommended to have
A job cost
a
account.
job
Yeah.
cost accountant
Right.
in order to reconcile.
At the request of the district.
At their, his recommendation, and we requested it to the board.
Was it
I didn't come up and say, hey, we need an accountant. You've been asking who's gonna reconcile.
Did staff request it or not?
We do need an accountant. We've just started the tip of the iceberg, but it was at the recommendation of CEO. We just are, like I said, we're just starting, and it has been an overwhelming process at the very beginning. We have to set up an entire fund code. We're starting to process purchase orders. This is above what we normally do on a day-to-day. The work is already spread thin, and now on top of that, we're gonna add the bond. So to be able to put that onto our current staff, we just don't have enough hours in the day to complete those tasks and do the day-to-day tasks as well.
So if I can give you like an example of when construction starts, we're going to have pay applications that we have to verify against the prevailing wage rates. So we do all the verification, we do all the pay applications, we sign off on it, but then we turn it over to the district because the district is the one that has to cut the check to the contractor. And so what we were recommending is if you have a go-to person that we, because we want to make sure we're paying our GCs on time, we're making sure the invoicing is correct and being reconciled against your general ledger. All those things need to happen, and we do not have access to cut checks from your enterprise system. We don't have the ability to create purchase orders from yours because really the best practice is that we don't have that ability to do it. We do all the front end work. We just need somebody on the district side to do the reconciliation, cutting the checks, issuing the POs, and paying the invoices. That's what we had recommended. And so after that recommendation came, and a discussion with Ms. Pulley, she recommended that we put somebody on the district side, on their staff, to supplement that work. That's $380 million that's going to be exchanging hands that needs somebody to be on it. Or you need to put it on an external auditing company to make sure they're doing an audit of the district.
And just to finish my question, I would like to know what is going to be the pay for that new position that is created. If we have the job description,
And if someone in your department, Ms. Pulley, can do that, or maybe we could absorb that pay position, the money that we're gonna pay the $12 million to Presidio.
Mr. Houck, if you allow me, that job description is being worked on. We have a template right now that we're working on, I believe, as of last week, that they had this discussion about this position. So HR is currently working on that job description. We've set the position at an administrative professional level 4, and the range of pay on that is $74,260 to $87,364. So of course, it just depends on the level of experience or the applicant, and the salary will be set within that range.
Yeah, because here it says job cost accounting coordinator is $90,657.58. So we already cut off one person from your department. Now we're gonna hire 8 more? Excuse me, but I don't understand.
Mr. President, if I may, I understand that we probably need this. We need this person or this position. My problem is with how many more recommendations are you going to have? I mean, we should have known about this, I think, before we even got started. You all knew about it.
Well, so my
I don't know if you
recommendation
could have told us.
was that they just had a person on their staff, just a contact person who we could go to when we start to create purchase orders, when we start to reconcile pay applications. So we just recommended that they have a contact person on the owner's side, and the district is asking for the additional person so that they can give us a person that's dedicated.
And I understand that, but is there any other things that any other personnel or any other suggestions that we're going to have that's going to have more employees or?
No, sir.
I have a question, sir. So it feels like this person is going to be working exclusively with you, and you're located on one of our campuses. Wouldn't it make sense to put that person, although he's our employee or she's our employee, but to house them right with you?
I would recommend having them here with Ms. Pulley, so Ms. Pulley is fully aware of what's happening. She can direct their work. She can do everything that needs to be as far as managing that person's workload and all that. That would be my recommendation. But again, all we're recommending is a contact person here where we can issue POs, reconcile POs, do a pay application. Somebody who can work within your financial enterprise system to do that, because we do not have access to it, nor should we have access to it.
And to me that makes sense. It's something that we ask the city too, in regards to making sure we have one city engineer versus in regards to once we ask for permits. It makes completely sense to make sure you have one employee, which would be the contact person. My question goes to the conversation that we've had in the past is the fact that central office is top heavy, and it's not Presidio's problem, it's a district problem. It might be a perception, it might be reality. And the question that I have, one, can we utilize any one of our current, because my understanding is all the detail and everything would be done by Presidio.
Right.
It would just be the reconciliation and say, okay, this money's coming out of this and it has to be paid. And then, I guess the other question that I have then is, if the work slows down, or if we're only doing reconciliation for like 4 different pay apps or whatever, then what is a person going to be doing the other 75% of the time? Or maybe 80% of the time?
So there's a lot of more work that comes before you can reconcile. All the work has to be done to get to a point where you can reconcile it. So there's purchase orders that have to be issued. There's the pay applications that need to be paid. And plus also we have to track our assets. We will have to generate our capital assets that we're building, depreciating them, having them on a schedule. So there's a lot of work and a lot of detailed work that goes into construction. With the construction projects that we have, the amount of work that will go into these projects, it's tremendous, even for one person. So to put that on the current staff that we have, on top of the duties that they have already absorbed, because of the budget cuts, it would create quite a burden on the entire finance department. As it is that we are already stretched thin, to put this on top of that, it's a significant amount of work.
And my concern is, this is happening across the state. I mean, we're all stretched thin because of the funding and because of the current situation. And so I just have concerns. I rather, I have concerns in regards to what is being asked of, but I don't want to hinder anything from, especially within the bond program, to not be either successful or to not have the staff, and then there's excuses later on about that. But I would like to see, and we've talked about a staffing review, just to see for the mindset of, for us is, are we overstaffed? Are we understaffed? And if so, that's something that I would like to look at, because I don't have a professional opinion on that. I understand that we need somebody that's going to be designated, whether that's a new person or an existing person. Staff's recommendation is for a new person, and I mean, this is administration's recommendation, and we can't hold you accountable if we don't follow your recommendation. So, is there any other questions? Go ahead.
So I have two big questions, I guess, have to do with, along with what Mr. Simthal was mentioning. How did we not know that we were going to need this position before? Like, we made 2 cuts of accountants plus our chief financial officer, correct? So that's 3 in total that could have done this job that we cut when we knew that the bond passed, or we knew at some point it might have been, there's a possibility that the bond is going to pass. Maybe we should wait to determine whether or not we cut these positions. Were the accountants that were working for us before making $90,000?
It was only 1 accountant and 1 purchasing agent.
Okay.
Okay, so it was not 2 accountants.
I was just repeating what was there.
Yes, and then we had, I know that at the time we did have accountants on a contract basis. And so those accountants on contract are no longer with us.
But the accountant that we had, did she make more than $90,000? Did she make $90,000 or less?
Less.
So why are we going to pay this person $90,000?
Basically, I think the calculation that's on there, and I didn't, HR didn't do this calculation. I don't know. I gave you the base here. It's $74,260 through 87,364. I think that number that they gave you also is including fringes. So anyway, the fringes, it might be correct at 10,000. So adding it into that 74 through 87, anywhere in between, it's a range on our pay scale. The accountant that was let go was on administrative pay scale 2. This one here is a cost accounting coordinator, and we have it listed as an administrative professional 4, so it's at a higher pay grade level.
And then our CFO that we let go of, she would have been able to do this position as well, correct?
Oh, yes, she's an accountant.
She has the capabilities, yes, but it's not at the level that she was at.
Okay. Because we were told that her jobs were no longer needed, that basically we could cut her. So now I'm just concerned we shouldn't have made those things, and we should have seen this coming. We knew that the bond was a possibility, or at one point it did pass in May. We should have known that this position is going to be needed, and the accounting couldn't have taken care of it. My second question, as Ms. Trout mentioned, $12 million is what we agreed in our contract with Presidio. That was already over what we calculated and told the community that we were gonna be paying for a bond project manager. So we're already over our estimates that we gave them, that we calculated everything off of. So then if we take another, I'm just gonna say 90, that's what it says here, if we take another 90 off of that, then we're behind even more. These are the types of decisions and things that continue to happen that build the lack of trust that our community has. So my question to you is, can our contract be altered where that 90,000 or whatever the contract amount comes out of your 12 million instead of the rest of the bond amount?
And so that would be an additional service, as part of the contract. It could be amended for the additional services, because on the contract it's 5.8, and the owner is responsible for auditing services, financial services, all that, so we would have to amend the contract for that. And we still wouldn't have access to your enterprise system. That's the whole thing behind this. So we cannot create POs, we cannot receive POs, we cannot pay invoices. We don't do that. It's the
Right.
owner that does
And I
it.
understand that, but I'm saying instead of the 12 million being our contract, we would lessen that by 90,000 and use that 90,000 instead to pay whoever it is that we hire.
90,000 a year times
90,000,
four,
that's true, times four.
$360,000.
So just something to consider, because my concern is, as they were asking, are there gonna be additional positions in the future that are gonna cut from this? And we're being told no, and I appreciate that. But the fact of the matter is, we don't ever really know, right? There could be more. We don't know whether or not the quotes that we base this on are correct, and right now, we're already over budget on our estimates. So that's concerning to me, because I feel like we're digging ourselves into a really deep hole already, and we haven't even gotten off the block yet.
I have a follow-up question. I don't pretend to know
How to do your job or anything. I just wanna ask a question. Does this person have to be in county? They're gonna do reconcile?
Yes, they're gonna be reconciling, so job cost accounting is a specialty in accounting, which is why we're asking for a higher pay grade, because it takes certain training to be able to do job costing.
Reconcile?
Correct.
Okay. I was just wondering.
Mr. Chair, since this is a bond job, I mean, why not absorb the 360,000, those 4 years, out of those $12 million? We could use this money for something else that we really need. We have a lot of needs here in the school district, a lot of schools and a lot of needs that we have. Not because we have that bond money, we could use it to our pleasure. We need to be responsible for what we're doing. $12 million, very well worth it that it could take this position.
But I think we're using bond interest money.
It
right?
doesn't matter, that money could be
We can't use
put
it for
to
anything
someplace
else,
else.
I think.
I don't know, but not for this
It's
position,
gotta
I
be
don't know.
for the bond purpose only, right? We can't say, okay, we're gonna save that money and use it, it's gotta be, so if
I don't
we're
know.
gonna use it on anything, that would be the thing to use it on, right?
All that I need to know is what was said to the community. The community is trusting in us. The lack of trust is because the moves that we're doing, that they don't like it, that's what happened. Now that we were lucky to pass this bond, we need to abide by what we said. If we said no, it's no. When we said that $360,000 is more than what we planned, I'm sorry, but I'm not agree with this.
Well, let me, from a Presidios standpoint, this conversation came out when we began to, our project controls coordinator got together with financial services to start developing the budget. And as we started to develop the budget, that budget has to be set up in your system, in the frontline system. We don't have access to that system. So we started to have a discussion about executing purchase orders and reconciling and payouts. And it was at that time that district staff said, we may need a full-time person on our side to do this. Now we don't want to amend the contract. We just need a contact person that we can go to set up budgets. Our project control coordinator is one of the best in the business. He can do all of that with you. He can work alongside with someone. He can guide them the whole way. He knows how to do all the pay applications. He knows how to do that. We don't have access to your frontline system, nor should we have access to your frontline system. All we need is one person on the owner's side to be responsible for that, to work with him on these things.
Just wanna, for example, Nickel Hayden will be talking about the closing in Chicago, $100 million. We put that in our interest. In 6 months, we'll have 2.6 million.
Right.
So every 100 million for interest would be 2.6. So again, it's not coming out of the 387 state interest. And,
Right.
It's just part of making sure that we are being accountable to our community and keeping our promises to ensure that we stay in the black.
That's a good point. I understand that. That's a good point. Yeah, you raised a good point there, Dr. Galaviz. It's just like we promised the community one thing and now we're doing something else. But I think that if we go to the community and tell them, look, we need this and we need to do this, and it's not going to cost us money, it's going to come out of the bond interest money, then I think they would be all right. But I think we should do that first before we approve something like this. Let's go to the community and tell them, look, we're going to do this. We're going to be transparent. Let's do it. Let's say that, and I'm pretty sure they're going to say yes. It's done. Because I would.
But we cannot answer for the community. We need to send first a question, like you said, Mr. It is totally right. The community, they need to know about this first, because like we have exactly the time to ask them for this money in order when we were running the bond. Now I think we need to be transparent, what we promised from the beginning, and we need to address these questions to them. If they are agreed, it's
We have
okay.
a committee, right?
But this is not about oversight. Going to the community and asking them what we need. We're telling you what we need. The community in CBAC is not oversight. It's not managing the bond. We are managing the bond internally.
Well, then we can tell them.
And sit there and ask, hey, can I have this? Oh, okay. And we get behind, our behind in requisition, get behind in our RFQs, RFPs, and that costs more money.
I understand that, but you know, we promised the community that we were gonna do that. So how hard is it to just, like you said, maybe we're not asking permission, but we're letting them know.
We're informing them.
Let's do that first before we vote on it, I think.
And if I may, just to add to that, you're right, we are the ones who are managing these funds, but ultimately it's their funds. It's their money, it's the taxpayers' money. So we need to make sure that we're being held accountable to that. And in the meetings that we attended, for the bonds committee, I don't remember interest money ever really being talked about. Am I wrong about that? That we didn't really discuss how much we would make? That's kind of our cushion, correct? A built-in cushion. That wasn't discussed, and I feel like if we present it to our committee and say, this is something that we are facing, this is the approximate cushion and interest that we're gonna be making, and we're looking to pay for this position out of that, so it's not coming out of our general fund, it's not gonna put us into a bigger deficit, it's not going to affect the promises that we made based off of, the quotes that we made, then it would make more sense, and we're being transparent. Because that interest was never discussed before.
I think you're using words like transparent, we're using words, that are just, sometimes just words. And again, the community see that, yes, it's their taxpayer money, but also, they voted for you.
Right.
They voted for you to make these decisions.
Also, Dr. Galaviz, maybe this question goes for you, or, maybe legal? Besides, and we're taking this decision or not, I would like to know, what is the bond interest can be used for? The bond interest can be used for?
Bond matters, bond related,
Bond matters only.
yes.
Oh, okay, so we need to know about that, right, before this starts?
Well, that's what this is though.
Anything related to the bond, and this isn't out of the ordinary. Most school districts will hire someone on as a job cost accountant for the duration of the bond, and then they let them go. They know that getting into that job, it's only for 4 years. that's it. And so I will tell you from my past experience, most ISDs will hire a job cost accountant on the financial services side, because not only is it good for accountability, but it doesn't add extra workload to their existing staff who are doing the day-to-day business. $387 million is a lot of money, and you want to make sure someone on the owner side is watching it. So whether that be a job cost accountant or an auditor.
I agree that we have to have somebody on staff to actually be the go-to in regards to reconciliation of this. You're telling me, Ms. Pulley, that we don't have the capacity with our current staff.
Correct.
And that's why you're requesting an additional staff member.
Yes, sir.
The concern I have is, I don't know, are we overstaffed? Are we understaffed? Is our staff not working at the capacity they should? Or, I mean, these are just questions that I
Yes.
have, and we have to be good stewards of the taxpayers' money. We want to make sure that it's done right. And what the issue here is the fact that they need somebody that is going to be designated, and you're saying with your current staff, you don't have the capacity to designate somebody, and that's why you're requesting somebody.
Correct. So I can assure you that our staff, your finance staff, works tremendous hours to accomplish what they do. To put this on the staff, it would be, something would have to be dropped. You know, we can't do it all. And we probably have one of the hardest working staff working for this district. And to put additional work that comes with the bond on them, something as far as the checks and balances, something's going to be missed because the workloads are going to be.
Well, then we get an audit finding because we didn't.
Correct. I think that this would ensure the quality of the bond. It would ensure the quality of our financials. It would improve our oversight. The cost is, it's going to be a drop in the bucket compared to the results that we will get by having this position to help us.
I know it's not on the agenda, but it was mentioned, but it's something that we need to look at is more of the external auditing part, because I do want to make sure that that's done, but that's not what's on here, but the question is, does the board want to accept administration's recommendation to hire a cost accountant that would be the contact person for the bond program in-house? That's what at issue, but I would recommend, if the board does go that route, that we would have a staffing review, so that way we can see, are we overstaffed or not, or understaffed. That way we have legitimate versus saying, because right now that's a perception. The question is it reality or is it not reality? And so I would recommend that would be part of it if we do move forward with the administration's recommendation.
And I have a couple other questions. So, an auditor has been mentioned. Are you mentioning like an internal auditor specifically for this?
Well, I mean, that would be another 100 and something a year, or we have to look at within our external audit, if we could add additional scope of work to include it.
So I guess my question goes back to, of course, the internal auditor, their salary is higher, and I understand that. But if we were to use these funds for an internal auditor, they would only be able to audit the bond aspects, correct? Not everything else. Okay,
if we use interest.
Okay. I was just considering that, I guess. The second question has to do with, if we decide to move forward with this, would we reach out to people who we let go to see if they're interested in this position?
We would post the position,
Just for
yes,
this.
and if anybody's interested, they certainly are welcome to apply.
Is there any other questions? Is there a motion to approve administration's recommendation?
I would like to move to not to approve this item because the situations that we already decided, not until we have more further information.
There's a, well, that's a motion. Is there a second on that? There's a possible to table it if that's her motion. If you want
My
to.
motion, I said not to approve.
But would you be willing to take?
No, I just like, that's what I said in my motion, not to approve until we have more information in regards to this item.
Are you,
From,
under Robert's Rules of Order, are you wanting to table the item or are you not wanting to take
I
action?
would like to table that. To postpone.
Do you have a date in mind?
Excuse me?
Do you have a date? Usually it's 10.
For the next board meeting.
Okay. There's a motion. Is there a second?
I second.
Okay. There's a motion and a second. Can you call the order, Peter?
Ms. Barnes? Ms. Mendoza?
No.
Mr. Rodriguez?
No.
Mr. Cimental?
No.
Mrs. Stroud?
Yes.
Ms. Zuniga?
No.
Motion does not pass.
Is there another motion? If there's no other motion, we will go to the next item.
Item 3C.
Wait, does that mean that? Alright, so, well,
Steve, what's your?
That's up to you all. There's a motion to table that failed. The item is still up for discussion and another motion, but a motion has to be made. Or it doesn't pass.
Very anxious to get work started. We're already getting surveys done. We're talking about, later on in executive session, we're gonna talk about land acquisition, so we're chomping at the bit to get.
so we're gonna table all of that.
I don't wanna table that because we need to start keeping the promises that we make. And I wanna just, encourage you to take action on this item.
Is there a motion?
I move to approve.
Is there a second? Is there a second? If there's no second, motion dies.
I'll second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Is there anything for the board?
Ms. Barnes?
No.
Ms. Mendoza?
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez?
Yes.
Mr. Cimental?
Yes.
Mrs. Stroud?
No?
Ms. Zuniga?
Yes.
Motion passes.
I do have Steve, for us to get the staffing, can we include that?
The motion's been made and voted on and passed. You just direct the administration to do
We
that.
could give direction to administration. Okay.
For an audit, you mean?
Staffing review to see, because I've tried to look at different districts and it's, I don't have the capacity. Two is the staffing organizational charts are different, so I want to make sure that we do a staffing of the central office. Is that okay with the board? I'll take this to next time.
Item 3C, discussion and possible action to add an at-risk teacher at Columbia High School using the state compensatory funds. Presenter Ms. Martha Carrasco.
Yes, board, so, first of all, I wanted to let you know that, for the August board meeting, tentatively, I will bring a request for for positions when school starts, and if we need additional teachers, and so my plan is to bring that information to you in August. However, because I did have that, position on the cost accountant, we are interested in, I'm requesting an at-risk teacher for Columbia High School. So we want to get that one on board as soon as possible. We do have the funding. I have checked with finance, and it's funded with state compensatory funds. And so we do have the funding for this position. So I would like your approval so that we can get rolling on this position and get it started as soon as possible.
Any questions?
So this will not put us in a further deficit?
No, ma'am.
Let's make that clear.
For the campus?
Columbia High School.
Oh, okay, perfect. So, questions? I would like to make a motion for the Columbia High School at-risk teacher.
There's a motion, is there a second? I have a motion and a second. Adrian, can you pull the board?
Ms. Barnes,
Yes.
Ms. Mendoza,
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez,
Yes.
Mr. Simental,
Yes.
Mrs. Stroud,
Yes?
Ms. Zuniga.
Yes.
All in favor, motion passes.
Thank you, Board.
Item 3D, discussion and possible action to approve an El Paso water utilities easement. Presenter Dr. Oscar Rico.
Is there any questions? Not, do I have a motion to approve?
No, I'd like to have a motion to approve this one, but I don't know if someone else has it.
Is there a second?
Oh, someone made the motion? Then I second.
I thought you were making a motion.
Yeah, I'm making the
Is
motion.
there a second?
I'll second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any questions? If not, can you pull the board, Adrian?
Ms. Barnes,
Yes.
Ms. Mendoza,
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez,
Yes.
Mr. Simental,
Yes.
Mrs. Stroud,
Yes?
Ms. Zuniga.
Yes.
All in favor, motion passes.
That one
Okay.
That was easy. No questions,
Can
really?
we still ask you some questions?
I was waiting to answer a bunch.
Board President, on the next item, can we go to F? Discussion, possible action, and then go into that word. Two that are just
I'd rather just follow the. That'll take us to next item.
Item 3E, discussion regarding past acquisitions and sale of district-owned real property. Presenter Mr. Armando Rodriguez.
And the reason why I brought this, I believe Ms. Barnes has been asking for a while in regards to that. I believe, can you get me the file, Adrian, in regards to it? I know there was a rush to try to get it out before the election, but I think it's important that it's fully transparent, and if there's any questions. This is all the information that. It's not yours. Make sure it goes in order.
What is it?
Or if anybody else wants a copy, you're more than able to request, but I think it just takes away time from our staff. But I just think it's important that, in regards to the intent, or in regards to some of the questions, that you have an opportunity as a board member to ask those.
Is this, Mr. Sheriff, is this regards certain only real estate property, only one or several ones?
No, it's several. She had been requesting it, and we didn't have the capacity of our staff as well to actually get that, but she demanded it before the election, so I just want to give her the opportunity to ask any questions, because I think it's important for us to do our role as a board member and ask those, and a board meeting or in a professional way.
And Mr. Chair, all this paperwork is what she requested of that big box? Okay.
What I find interesting is really what I requested was summed up on this 2-page paper that's right here. So honestly, I appreciate the thoroughness of it, but considering that I just got it tonight, I don't even know what's in there, so I don't know what's included. Just to be clear, I had asked for the sale of land from the last bond until present, because we had a lot of people in the community asking that question. What land have we sold? Why did we sell it? How much did we sell it for? Those, I'm sure anybody who is on social media and throughout our community was seeing those questions constantly. And so I wanted to get our community an answer. So that's why I asked for the information to be filled before the bond, because I wanted to give them the information that they were requesting. I will say, like I said, I don't know what's inside of that box, but I asked for the appraisal values when the pieces of property were purchased, the appraisal values when they were sold, how much we sold them for, how many acres, and their location. You make a decision on whether or not all of that was needed, or just this. And I will make it clear, I requested it in January.
You requested all appraisals.
The appraisal value.
So that is, no, you requested all appraisals. Because we actually had a meeting in May to actually address some of the discussion points. And I think for me, one of the things that went out into the community and people don't understand is, or don't have the background to, is in regards to the property that was right next to Ms. Searles' house and what was transpiring over in 2017. And if you could go back to articles of Ms. Searles not wanting low-income housing in our community and not wanting development in her backyard, it goes to test, and it has the factual information, because back in 2013, there was 25 acres that was appraised at $800,000, and I think this has been what's been talked about in the community. There was 25 acres that was appraised at $800,000 in January of 2013. The district then buys the Lions property for $1.5 million in June of 2013. Within that, not only did Ms. Searles, as the president, kick out the superintendent and our legal counsel to actually purchase that property, the real question is, why did we overpay the property of more than $700,000? And then, when we sold it in July of 2020, it was appraised at 1.020, and we sold it at 1.2.
So July of 2020?
Huh?
July of 2020? Because that's not even on my paper here.
It's not on this one?
No. On this one that we received,
Oh, the
this is
appraisal.
3.
Because
Number 5.
number 5.
That says May of 2021. So is it 2021 or 2020?
Well, it was probably it's probably closed in May of 2021.
Okay. It's number what? Number 5, for legal. Thank you, legal. Sorry, I was just looking at dates and I did not see 2020 on there, so. And I honestly, to follow up on what you're saying, I have no idea about any of that. That was well before I was even within the district, and that has nothing to do with the reason for my request. My request was because people were asking, how much are we paying for the land that we're selling? What did it appraise at? How many acres are we selling? Because we're purchasing property, but we're also selling it like crazy. So people are wondering, why are we purchasing new property when we've been selling land since the last bond? And it's a valid question, so that's why I asked the question. And I received nothing but fights to get the information since it was requested.
No, I think what we wanted to do was making sure that you got the full information in regards to what you requested. And not only that, we haven't purchased property since those days in 2013.
I meant
when Ms. Searles was trying to purchase the whole valley in regards to Jack Winton's property. And that's actually part of the news article where those are one of the praise where she was trying to utilize the district to purchase property so that way there would not be development in her backyard. And so I think that's what needs to be told, and I believe Ms. Trout knows this, and that's a lot of the conversation. Those are factual information, and I think that's important, and that's why I put the item.
Absolutely.
Because that's what needs to be told in regards to why the district paid more than $700K on her neighbor's property, and yet what was being misinformed through social media and others was the fact that we had a loss at that property, and in reality we weren't utilizing that property since 2013 and we were losing it anyways.
And those were some of the misconceptions. We talked about miscommunication, we talked about things that are going out into the community that are not accurate. The reason I requested this information was to clear up some of that miscommunication, to give them factual dates, factual numbers, to say it's this plot of property, this is what we bought it for, this is what it was appraised for at the time. And then vice versa, this is what we sold it for, and this is what it was appraised for at that time.
We did provide information in between that. We didn't have the appraisals.
Okay.
And that's what you requested, and so that's when Steve had to go back and look for a file of those.
So the appraisal values are not readily available. We had to,
You wanted appraisals, and that was a conversation that, and back in, I believe it was around May. It was
in
actually
February.
before election.
It was February 26th and 27th. I have it right here. It was before the board meeting.
No one, that was.
When we met before the meeting.
Okay, well, Steve, Mr. Blanco had to go back and get all those appraisals, but there was, I believe the amount was provided. It was the fact that you wanted those appraisals. We had to go back and.
So some of the amount was provided, and I believe it was from Dr. Rico right away, so I believe it was. I'm just saying, thank you ahead of time. The amount, so the date of the sale, the amount that we sold it for, and the location was included initially, at least most of them. I am seeing a couple others here. He actually has one from August 22nd of 2022 for Cap Carter subdivision lot 7 on here. That's not part of this, so I'm not
It's
sure.
all of them.
Yeah, okay. So he did request, or he did provide that initially in February, and that's when I requested the additional appraisal values to know how much we made on that property. What did we lose money? Because that was the misconception, right? That we lost money because we were paying more, or we were selling it for less than what it was appraised for. And so I wanted to clear that up. So, and how many acres?
The question was, I mean, it goes back to how you want to put it out to the community in regards to, there was a loss of the property that we held it since 2013, and we overpaid in 2013 because Mr. Rhodes wanted to save the valley and her backyard, kicked the superintendent and legal counsel out, so that way we could purchase that property in regards to those developments. But yet, there's only one side of the story you want to say.
No. Like I said, I don't know anything about that, so that wasn't part of my question.
And I guess if I do need to put another item to discuss it, I think it's important that we discuss it as a board and not through either your boss or fake social media accounts or fake emails and bloggers. So I think it's important for us to do our role as a board member and have those conversations here and question it, because there's more information and there's two sides to the story.
Yes, and that's what I was trying to get information to present. So thank you for the information. I will look through it. We will.
I was not that superintendent that got kicked out.
I wasn't on the board yet. Some of us weren't on the board yet.
Yeah. I guess
President, thank you for the information.
Yeah. And I guess,
Now we know.
Mr. Chair, I do have a question for Ms. Barnes. Ms. Barnes, you request all this information, all that I wanted to know. How are you going to address this information to the community?
So I wanted it to be addressed during the bond when people were asking these questions. So I think that's a question for the board. I mean, I've heard numerous times since I've been involved with the district that we want to get the truth out there about our land sales, about what has, happened with the sales, why we sold it, things of that sort, because our community doesn't know that information. They're not ever told, except for we sold this property. That's it. That's all they're ever told. And so there are so many questions, and we keep saying, oh, we need to bring the community in and let them know the truth, but then we never do. So I don't know. I think that's a call as a board. Should we have a workshop with the community and inform them of this information so that it's presented to PIO? And that's it.
There was actually part of the questions that were asked and talked about. Now, it didn't go in detail because they didn't have the previous appraisal and what that cost was, but those conversations did happen at those meetings. Not only was it that, there was the pre-K 8, and I believe that's still, as part of the quarterly update that we're going to provide the community, that's something that we need to, and there's other information that we need to show the community in regards to some of the misinformation that was provided and some of the misinformation that you as well provided to Max Gross and the members.
I didn't provide this information to Max Gross.
Have the factual information, and that can be provided to the community.
The stuff that was presented in the Thursday cabinet.
And if I may, Mr. Chair, since we have all of us this information, I think it's very valuable. Still a lot of questions maybe from the community, created or not. But maybe they could be posted by PIO, and the community, they could reach out. If someone would like to have specific questions to specific property, they could always see it through PIO. PIO, can you please tell us if you can post this one? it could be reached from the community in case that they would like to see what price and what properties that we sold already. Can you come to the microphone, please?
We could actually put it in the bond, as a fact sheet question.
Beautiful.
So, we'll work on that in regards.
Yes, on that vein, I was gonna recommend that we have a FAQ section of our bond website. And that was part of our efforts during the bond campaign, and we can extend that out even now to dispel some of those common misconceptions that were coming out through social media, through word of mouth, things that we were hearing.
And then you see the sale price, closing date, property, and appraise.
Yes, that's information that can be easily added to our FAQ section.
Thank you. I
Thank
appreciate
you
that.
so much, Mr. Smith.
No problem.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Chair, I think from the administration point of view, you know, we like to honor the request of every board member, but in that box at 600 pages, it's a lot. You know, we didn't have the staff, can't just stop. One thing I did tell you, Trustee Barnes, just can't stop. And all our day-to-day operations to go back at these decisions that I wasn't even here and try to create a story of, we gave you what we had, that didn't suffice, and so that's when we requested Mr. Blanco and his staff to put that information for us. So do have it, yeah, 600 pages of past stuff, or things. It does take a lot of work.
I'm just going to add to that because it was brought up that I wanted to know the appraisal values so that I could make sure and tell the community that we did not lose money on purchases that we were making. So to me, this is a dog and pony show that you guys are trying to say this is why it took so long to prepare, because all I asked for was this document that's 2 pages long. So I feel like you guys are trying to make a point that doesn't need to be made. Because if it was something that, if you were going to tell me, oh, it's going to be 600 pages, I would have asked why. And I actually did ask why. I asked, why is the appraisal value not available at central office? Why is legal having to get involved at all? And then I just never received a response to that email. So if we're really going to get into it and make attacks that don't need to be made, let's tell the whole truth, because I asked for the appraisal values, not 600 pages of whatever's in that box that I can't even tell you what is in there because I haven't looked at it. No, I asked for appraisal values.
I have that email right here and I could read it and actually text messages to that.
And when you asked for clarification in our meeting, Mr. Armando, and unfortunately it's going to be your word against mine because there's no record of it, but in the meeting with legal, you asked, what else do you need? And legal counsel said, I think she just wants to know what else, or what it was appraised for. We need appraisal values so that we know that we didn't lose money, and we need to know how many acres. And I said, exactly.
You were provided some of those numbers.
I was not provided acreage, and I was not provided the appraisal values initially. That's what I asked for.
I'll attach it to the next agenda item.
Thank you.
Here it is where you were requesting it and demanding it right before the election. I wonder why. Misinformation, but I'll get that information. Yeah. We'll go to there's no other questions, but I think if we need to put this agenda item.
If I may. You like to say comments like that, but remember you're under the code of conduct as well.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I didn't try to utilize it to go against my community or my school district. I'll take us to next item.
Item 3F, discussion and possible action on the creation of the Carrillo ISD Public Facility Corporation under Chapter 303 of the Texas Local Government Code to act on behalf of the Carrillo Independent School District, approval of the certificate of formation and bylaws related to Bureau and resolving other matters in connection therewith. Presenter Cantu Arden Montoya.
Mr. President, members of the board, Dr. Galavis, for the record, my name is Arnold Cantu with Cantu Arden Montoya. It's good to be back here. This is the second meeting that we've had on this subject, where in the first meeting we sort of went over the general points of what the PFC can do for the district and what it is in a general sense. Again, this PFC structure generally creates a lot more leeway and opportunities for the district to engage private partnership for the acquisition of land, facilities, and other public buildings. And so we've, like I said at the last meeting, we've seen this more and more as a result of the lack of state funding. A lot of districts in Texas are, if not moving forward in a concrete way with the PFC, at least opening themselves to the possibilities or opportunities that a PFC can provide for building construction without having to raise taxes. So I'm available to any questions or what.
I do have some questions.
I know we had this item on the last agenda, and that was just to make sure we had that conversation. And in regards to, we've actually had this agenda item, Steve, would you tell me what, 2-3 years ago?
More.
When the tech dot first came about, in regards to the conversation with staff and the experts in this, is one, we did sell this property, and as you can tell, this is not a long-term solution for the district. And one of the options that I would like to see when looking is how can we either partner up or how can we work on doing something that will not hinder the taxpayer in regards to the central office location or relocation, because right now we're just sort of in, I don't know what you would call it. Well, one's Band-Aids, but this is not the long-term solution that we need to figure out. And so it's not something new, but it's something that would help us look into possible options for the district without having to ask the voters if they would, to ask the voters to fund this project. So, go ahead.
My question is, why did we decide to do this for Tanuquillo, Mr. Cantu? And if we did decide to do this, what are we going to give up and what are we going to receive? What are the benefits of this one? And do we know who are we going to create the partnership with?
Well, those are all good questions. Now, I will preface, a lot of times the strategy, the business, I have to defer to district guidance, council guidance, school board guidance on that. What my job is to say, okay, these are the options that the district wants. This is the legal path forward for that. And in this case, a PFC is one of several options that could at least give the district a little more leeway to work with the powers, instead of a school board, like I said at the last meeting, more with the powers of a private corporation. It gives more power to the school board to move in ways that are more like what you would see with a private corporation. The PFC structure basically creates an LLC, like anybody that runs a business would, and it isolates liability for potential partnerships in the future. So it's hard to say what a PFC can do, because it may not be relevant to what the district has in mind. But suffice to say that it's, really sort of flips the reasoning around to more of what can the PFC not do if the district wanted to do something. So it's really creating optionality and opportunities. Now the benefit, there's a couple of things here to discuss. And again, just like the last meeting, it's hard to discuss pinpoint benefits without going into a certain structure or a certain type of deal, which the district may or may not want to do. And I'd be remiss to speak about any potential real estate transactions in open forum. But suffice to say, the PFC could potentially, I'll throw out a hypothetical. Let's say there's a developer that owns land within the district, and instead of just outright selling it, would rather create some type of partnership with the school district, wherein in exchange for certain tax exemptions or tax benefits that they may receive, they'd be willing to provide benefits to the district. In some cases, what I've seen in other districts, for instance, which may or may not be what the district wants to do, is teacher housing, right? A lot of major metro districts have problems with affordable housing. And when I say affordable housing, I don't mean Section 8 or anything like that. I mean, what's basically termed naturally occurring affordable housing, where you're looking at people that are making about 80% of the median average, that may be squeezed out in larger areas where housing is an issue. A PFC in those circumstances could end up partnering with a developer who would create an apartment complex, and in exchange for a tax benefit, a property exemption benefit, would restrict the rents on a certain number of units in that complex and allocate those units to teachers within the district and subsidize their rent payments. So that's something that we're doing at other school districts. In cases where, if we're talking about an administrative building or an office building or something like that, where, if we're talking a bond election, it's a lot easier to say we need school safety, we need HVAC, we need student-focused. It's a lot, I've probably done a couple hundred bond elections. There's, it's always a tougher sell with admin buildings or athletic facilities or something like that. But the point is, admin buildings, there's an avenue for the PFC to partner with another entity to build the property and then lease it back to the district over a certain term of years. And after a certain term of years, sell that property to the district for $10. So consider it another way of financing a property that doesn't involve levying debt to pay bonds.
Yeah. My question, and I'm going to try to see if I do understand this correctly, and I want it to be a little bit more so that people that could understand. This one, you said, our acquisition of land. In other words, if we partner with someone, they're going to be benefited not to pay a lot of taxes. They're going to use the school district tax pay, right? Rate that we have as a school district. So then the developers, they don't have to pay too much taxes.
That's one potential. Again,
right?
It's a situation of think more of what they can't do than what they can, because
they could do that. I know they could do that. They could use our school district. Okay, I'm not going to pay too much. You partner with me. I'm a developer. Could be someone local. Could be someone from state. I don't know. And my question is, what are we going to get? Okay, we're going to partner with that person, and then or with that company or private company that you said, and maybe we could lease it, whatever they could. We benefit from there, maybe an acquisition of land or a building. They could build something for us. Could be. It depends what kind of terms do we come with them, right?
Correct. And so even in all those possibilities basically can be contracted for or against. So a lot of cases, that tax exemption will do a payment in lieu of taxes, where a district would pay a business developer that now claims a tax exemption because they partnered with the PFC, writes a contract that agrees to pay, whatever the district, whatever other entity says, we'll pay you the amount that we're in of the taxes.
And this term, because I was reading, it says, once that we get into the corporation, we cannot leave the corporation. I do understand they gotta be, meanwhile, we have this project, and then we could get off of this corporation?
Yes, again, that's depends on what type of structure the district goes into, but it is a possibility because, let's say, a developer comes in and wants to build, whatever, a building, a multifamily housing, a swimming pool, what have you, a public facility. And by the terms of whatever deal they've drafted with the district, they'd be getting some kind of benefit from the property tax exemptions and the sales tax exemptions. The question is, now with the PFC, through that entity, the district has the power to negotiate with a private partner to do something on their behalf and gain a benefit that they wouldn't be able to if they were working within the framework of what a school district.
Of course, gotta be a benefit for the school district.
Also for the same win-win situation, let's say, there is a possible revenue source that would come to the district to help offset, especially now that the legislator does not want to fund us correctly, where we could actually get revenue to help offset, like our current budget deficit, and or help give teachers a pay raise or stuff like that.
Sounds okay, this will help, Ms. Trout. Back in the days of the dinosaur, we Leo had a PLC. Before, yes ma'am. And we purchased, if I'm correct, we purchased this building.
Oh, this building, I thought
under PFC.
This one. Did it work good?
Here,
Apparently.
but if I'm correct, we've had a PFC in the past, many years ago, because we needed a central office. We were located where Cantillo Middle School is, and we needed to get out of there. We didn't fit anymore, and so a PFC was created. The district looked around, and we were able to get this building in person.
So then the only thing that we need to be take care of, who are we gonna be partnered with, right?
Exactly.
We need to be careful who are we gonna be partners with, right? That really worth it, that really help us. If not, they're gonna do the same.
Right, and that's part of the process. I mean, you'll typically after the PFC is created, you're not inking deals or making contracts right away. It goes through an RFP and then process, and you see what's available. Moreover, it's Ms. Mendoza, the hypothetical we did would be a good a basis for what a PFC has usually done in the past, where they partner with a developer who builds an office building. And so let's say it costs them $10 million to do it. They would partner with the PFC. The PFC would own the building, and the developer would build it with tax exemptions at a much lower price. And then the PFC, as the owner of that property, would lease it back to the district at a certain, annual or yearly payment that is within its operating budget. So think of it as sort of a financing, I guess.
Like a financing.
More of a instead of pay as you go for construction, it's sort of like an operating expense. It becomes an operating expense to pay rent on this building that the PFC owns, not the district, because the district can't pay rent on things that it owns. The PFC is a separate entity.
It's a separate entity. So the last question is, and then I would like to clarify this for the community. Is this going to affect the community economically in a certain way?
Yes, insofar as you're getting public facilities built in a way that wouldn't, essentially, you're getting infrastructure built without having to go and issue bonds, and raise your INS tax, for bonds. The Public Facility Corporation could issue bonds, and most likely that was the case, historically.
Yes.
Where the PFC issues bonds to pay the developer, for instance, to build that building, and then the lease payments that are coming from the district is the source of payment for those bonds that the PFC issued. It's not taxes.
It's not taxes.
Right. And so, let's say the district stops paying and defaults on that lease, right? Well, now the PFC can't pay back the bonds that it issued, so it defaults. But all the liability for that default is within the PFC, not the district. And by statute, the bonds of the PFC will say, this debt is not payable from taxes, it is not a debt obligation of the district, the city, or the state. It is solely payable from the revenues of the PFC based on the lease payments for that building. So the bondholders, the folks that lend the money to build that building, have ample warning about the risk that this is not a school district debt, this is a PFC debt.
PFC debt, okay,
Yes.
something that is
Right, which is
clear.
Yeah, separate and apart.
And they're separate and apart. So hopefully, if we partner with someone, hopefully they could help us good, because we're gonna try to help them with the taxes, of course, that we're expecting something in return.
Right.
So like I said, just be careful who do we partner with, so they can really help us.
Right, and it's, again, the hypo I'm stating is probably historical, but it's not a reflection of everything that PFC can do. It may be that there's avenues for a PFC to work with a private developer without having to issue bonds, but it really just depends on, what's being proposed and what's possible.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Of course.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I have a question. I'm sorry. I like that it creates, I think it's creating avenues for revenue for the district, right?
Potentially.
My only question is, and, Ms. Polly, we're gonna have to hire an accountant to take care of all this.
Sorry, I think you already did.
Yeah. No, but, I like that it creates avenues for us to, for the district to make money, right? And this is not the first one you create, right? Do you all know if, other districts actually make revenue, or do you just, once you do it, you leave it alone, or do you know if they've done well, or other districts in the state?
There's opportunities. I mean, to kind of go off tangent, I think around 2015, there were some statutory revisions that allowed PFCs to do projects in a wider jurisdiction, right? And so a lot of PFCs, well, not a lot, but one or two that were in the spotlight, I guess, did have some deal structures that were allowing tax breaks and not affecting the jurisdiction of that PFC, and those entities that were receiving tax benefits by partnering with that PFC would pay certain fees to those PFCs. So those were revenue generating. There was some legislation in the most recent legislative session that kind of reeled that back in. But there are, as far as jurisdiction within the jurisdiction of Granadillo ISD, depending on the deal structure or what folks are proposing, there are opportunities for that sort of thing.
For revenue?
Yeah, essentially, yes, because I mean, the tax exemption applies to every taxing entity. So the value of partnering with the district PFC essentially, think of at it this way. You've got 5 entities taxing you, then you go tax exempt. And you agree to pay IFUISD the amount of taxes that you would have owed had you not been tax exempt. That developer would still stand to save money by reason of the tax exemption from the other entities, the drainage districts, the counties, cities, what have you. So the benefit that you can negotiate for is larger than what you stand to lose in property taxes. So in that sense, yes, by those terms, that you'd be getting something more valuable than the tax revenue that you would be losing if the deal was structured that way.
And my understanding is if we own the property, we put it under the PFC, and then together with whoever we partner up, they own it. But at the end, when it's done, the district owns it again, right?
Yes. Usually there's what you typically see is a term of 20 years, or if there's bonds issued until the bonds are paid off, and then that property can be reverted back to the district.
And do it again.
Potentially.
Thank you.
There's also a possibility of teaming up with nonprofits, like even, which is our housing authority, stuff like that. There's, as we know, there's potential, especially for our, especially middle schools and other stuff. So, I mean, I guess the good thing about it too is that, whoever that board will report back to the board, and then we could have any questions or say so on that. But I believe, go ahead.
Thank you. So there is no increase in taxes for our taxpayers by doing this.
By creating the PFC, no.
And you keep mentioning the PSC can decide whether or not to issue bonds. So whether or not they do that, is that going to increase taxes for taxpayers?
No, the difference there, first, the issuance of bonds would be approved by the board. And the PFC bonds, I'll put it this way, on a basic level, there's debt. Statutorily, debt is a payment obligation lasting longer than 1 year. And not to get too into the weeds, but some bonds are secured by not taxes but revenues. You can see it more on the city side, where the utility system, people don't pay taxes for utility systems, they pay their monthly rates. And so that's revenue that comes in every year. And so if a city were to go and issue revenue bonds, those bonds would be secured, meaning the only way anybody can say, pay me back my money, is if that money is coming from the enterprise fund that collects utility revenues. You see it sometimes with school districts on the maintenance tax notes. Maintenance tax notes are payable from taxes, but they're payable from a different type of taxes, but still taxes. Anyway, in the case of the PFC, they cannot levy taxes to issue bonds. If they were to issue bonds, they'd be payable from revenue. Whether revenue coming from a developer or revenue coming from the district as payment for a lease, that would be, if the PFC issued bonds, they'd be payable from those entities, so from those sources. So it's correct to say that the PFC cannot raise taxes or issue bonds that would be paid from taxes, if that answers your question.
Yes, so ultimately, I guess, I just want to make sure, because anytime I hear that we're looking at bringing in funds, doing things within the district, building things, whatever the case may be, and we're not going to the voters for that, for those funds, I just want to make sure that that's not going to affect them in, their daily household budgets. So taxes are already always raising, and so I just wanted to make sure that that was not going to be the case if we went down this route. And then in regard to debt, just to be completely clear, this does not put us in further debt by doing the PFC.
No, it's a separate entity, different and apart from the district itself. So, yeah, you're looking at two different things.
All right, thank you.
There's no other questions, can we get a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
I would like to second, but before that, I just have a little question. Since we would like to move to approve, but do you know or do we know who are we gonna be partnered with? Since we're gonna approve this, who are we going to be partnered with?
I don't know that personally. I think maybe the district staff or legal or the council, the school board members have
Okay,
something like
so
that.
could be approved before to have someone who are we
Yeah.
going to be partnered with? It
Yes.
was my question, if we can
And
move
so-
to approve before
Right.
we could have, so we have the document ready, so when the time comes, we already know what's with them.
Right, and these, potential deals would be presented to the HFC board and relayed to the school board for approval.
Do we have a committee for this? Is that necessary?
Well, the PFC board, would be, 3 members of the board, and 2 more members plus appointed. That's the way it's drafted now. And they can, make decisions that are subject to school board approval. But I guess maybe if I can reach to the meat of the question is that the statutes, around creating and operating a PFC, much like Member Barnes' question about taxing authority, the safeguards have been in place in the statutes for some time. The school board is considered the sponsoring entity, and the PFC is created to effectuate the purposes of the school board. So you're not going to be in a situation where the HFC is making unilateral choices, the PFC, sorry, is making unilateral one-sided choices and keeping you in the dark or not letting the board know or anything like that. There's processes in the statute where, if you're going to issue bonds, it needs to be approved. If you're going to do a project, there will be discussion in open meeting.
So when we have the partner with, you're gonna bring us information, I guess, right?
Right.
And
Typically,
let us know.
it's done as a request for proposals, or developers will come in on their own initiative and submit proposals that serve as a starting point for negotiations to say, okay, we'll partner with you and we'll do it this way. And you make sure that, the district at every step is protected and that the PFC is the one containing the liability.
So this is for a good cause for the school district and the community?
I would say so. It's, at this point, it certainly, puts more tools in the toolbox, I guess you could say. I know that, there are, construction needs that, potentially weren't in the bond program, for reasons of, it's a big number, and, you're gonna make sure that the students come first. So for things like an admin building or things, that maybe aren't as high of a priority to the voters, this is an opportunity to team up with private partners and create a structure that would allow the district to, potentially not, how do I say, to not bite off more than they can chew. Basically, think of it as another, almost as a way of financing, but it's done through means that do not involve raising taxes or issuing
And do not raise
tax bonds.
the district, I guess.
Right, or affect the district's credit rating.
Thank you.
If I may, so you had mentioned the bond that we just passed a couple months ago, and I think that's important to mention. So I know the discussion of the central office keeps coming up, so I'm assuming that's kind of where this is coming from. If we had discussed during the bond process using possibly one of the buildings that would be vacated because we're building new schools for a central office location, would a PFC be able to help with the renovations that would be needed to a current building that would no longer be used for central office?
For rehab and that sort of thing, yes. Again, it's what can't the PFC do? So it's in a situation like that, it would be very similar to the scenario that Ms. Mendoza laid out, except instead of, building and constructing new, they'd be coming in and rehabbing, and doing something similar.
Actually, it was exactly the same. The building was already here. When the board at that time decided to go with the PFC, we were able to make all of the renovations that the district needed, plus purchase it. So we wouldn't have been able to leave that other building until the corporation was made and the building was renovated.
So with that being said, I'll second the motion.
Okay. And I'll take the for the board, sorry.
Ms. Barnes?
Yes.
Ms. Mendoza?
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez?
Yes.
Mr. Cimental?
Yes.
Mrs. Stroud?
Yes.
Ms. Zuniga?
Yes.
All in favor, motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Item 3G, update regarding the closing of the Cantillo ISD Series 2024 A and B. Presenter, Nicole Hayden.
Good evening, President Rodriguez, trustees, Dr. Galaviz. I'm glad that Arnold took the hard one, because this one's going to be a little easy for me. But great job, Arnold, on describing what the PFC is. Wanted to brief you very quickly on the outcome of the first tranche of bonds that were sold last month. We closed that transaction on July the 16th. So right now there is $100 million in the INS fund, currently just sitting there at the moment, but we are working, Ms. Pulley is working on getting those bonds invested so that we can start earning the interest for other projects that are necessary to implement the bond program. Just some of the highlights, and I'll first start by saying, y'all staff is awesome. Ms. Pulley came in and just knocked it out of the park. Dr. Galaviz did a great job kind of steering the ship and ensuring that the district got the best possible deal out there. The market right now is very volatile, I have to say it nicely, and some deals that were pricing in that week struggled. A lot of bonds went unsold, and Cantillo ISD was one of the only districts that sold all of our bonds. So we had $100 million of bonds available. We received $175 million in orders. So we were oversubscribed by about 1.7, 1.8 times. When that happens, we're able to lower our interest rate down a little bit. And in this case, we were able to achieve a 4.47% or 4.47% interest rate on the bonds. So when we started planning for the bond, we were anticipating about a 5% interest rate, possibly a little higher. So in this case, we were able to come down to 4.47.
Which is a good deal, 4.4?
In this market, it's a great deal. I think the days of us selling bonds at 2% are over. And so to achieve 4.4 in the current environment, I think is a testament to the district and to this effort that the staff and the board put into the transaction. Okay, so that's the Series A. That's kind of the highlight of the transaction. There was a Series B bond where we refunded the maintenance tax notes that the district issued back in 2020 during COVID. That bond issue, the maintenance tax notes, are now over on the INS side, which did free up about $1.2 million on an annual basis for the next 5 years, I believe, on the district's M&O side. To me, that was the Series B was the most important and the quickest one that we needed to execute in order to free up some dollars on that M&O budget. That money is for teachers and staff.
This one, the B one.
That was the Series B, yes ma'am.
And we have 1.2?
That one was about $7 million.
7 million?
That was moved over from the M&O side over to the INS side. And so with that, Series A and Series B were very successful. Market really took a liking to the bonds that we offered. It had been maybe 3 or 4 years since the last time we've issued bonds. So we were kind of like reintroducing kind of CISD into the market. It was very well accepted by investors. So congratulations to the district, and congratulations to the staff and the community for putting in all the work for that first tranche of bonds.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You like your presentation better than Dr. Rico's? Even though it took a little longer. Good job.
Okay.
And in regards to what we were projected when you met with, on the task force, to what we projected in the actual, we were projecting what, 5?
We're projecting 5.
And we ended up at
4.47.
4.4.
So what, in regards to total amount, actual, what would that? Okay.
And you know what, I don't have the numbers right in front of me, but you're looking at about a savings of about 20 to 25 million.
Wow.
Just on the way we executed this bond transaction.
Is this interest is fluctuating?
It's locked in for.
It's locked in?
It's locked in for 30 years.
For how long?
For 30 years, but we do have an opportunity in 8 years to refinance a portion of it, and then again. in
How many
10
years to refinance? 8 years?
8 years.
And will be locked for 30 years?
That's correct.
Thank you.
So there was significant savings by getting the interest rate lowered. We kind of just timed the market appropriately, and took advantage of that dip in rates.
So 20 to 25 million. If we could get that actual, because it might be something we might want to share with the community in a press release or maybe a fact.
I'll send that over to this board.
This liaison to our PIO as well, so the community, they should know about this.
Absolutely. We'll do.
You're doing great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Good job.
Good job.
I'll take us to next time.
Thank you, Ruby.
Good job.
Thank you.
Item number 4, executive session. To consult with attorney under sections.
I have 5 stores and it cost them $600. No, I have had it before. I never liked it, and then I started liking it.
See, let's go.
Time is 8:49 p.m. Item number 5, new business. 5A, discussion on possible action regarding potential acquisition of real property for district needs.
No action?
It's up to you all. So the Presidio team gave you an update on the current efforts with them and the broker to identify and acquire locations. To authorize the administration, Presidio and the broker to continue with the negotiations and on the sites that were identified as the preferred sites, to go ahead and bring back those contracts if we reach a price point that they want to recommend to you. So in order to enter the transaction, a real estate contract has to come back to the board. There's sites that we discussed.
Is there a motion to approve the recommendations?
I move.
And to continue with others just in
Yeah,
case.
just in case.
Continue with, okay, I move. I made the motion and then to approve administration recommendation.
I second.
And to allow, just in case one doesn't work, to continue. Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay. There's a motion and a second. Can you pull the board?
Ms. Barnes?
Yes.
Ms. Mendoza?
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez?
Yes.
Mr. Cimental?
Yes.
Mrs. Stroud?
Yes.
Ms. Zuniga?
Yes.
All in favor, motion passes. Item 5B, discussion and possible action regarding the recommendation of administration to terminate the probationary contract of R&F for job abandonment without a good cause and issue appropriate notice to the effect.
Is there a motion?
to approve the recommendation sent by administration regarding this position and the abandonment of the position, including notification to CISD.
I want to make it clear and make sure that the minutes reflect that the board was briefed on the reasons that were provided by the teacher. And it's my understanding, Ms. Mendoza, based on that discussion, that her recommended motion is that her reasons for separating from the district past penalty-free resignation date are not good cause. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Is there a second? There's a motion and a second. Adjourn to the full board.
I'm sorry, who's second?
I'll send Ms. Maria.
Ms. Barnes?
No.
Ms. Mendoza?
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez?
Yes.
Mr. Cimental?
Yes.
Mrs. Straub?
Abstain.
Ms. Zuniga?
Yes.
4 in favor, motion passes.
I'll take us to
Item number 6, meeting adjournment. Time is 8:00.